This is Ag Matters PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, brought to you by the Iowa Soybean Association, your daily recap of the information that affects Iowa's farmers, producers, and consumers, right here in the heart of the heartland. With reports from our award-winning broadcast team of Dustin Hoffman, Riley Smith, and Mark Magnuson. Now, from the IARN studios in Des Moines, here's Riley Smith.
Good day and welcome to Ag Matters PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. I'm Riley Smith. Today is Tuesday, October 8th of 2024, and we are so glad you can join us for today's show. In today's episode, I talk with Dan Halstrom, the president and CEO of the U.S. Meat Export Federation, as he reacts to the news of the port strike for the Gulf and East Coast ports ending and what that means for the red meat industry here in the United States. But before we get into any of that, let's hear from our sponsor, the Iowa Soybean Association and the Soy Checkoff.
Iowa Soybean Association is driven to deliver for Iowa's 40,000 soybean farmers. We're proud to provide objective agronomic research, a helping hand with soil and water stewardship, and timely industry news powered by the Soybean Checkoff. Learn more at iasoybeans.com.
Welcome back to Ag Matters PM on the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. I'm Riley Smith. In today's news segment, I have some conversation with Dan Halstrom, president and CEO of the U.S. Meat Export Federation, as he reacted to the news of the Gulf and East Coast ports ending that strike, at least temporarily. Halstrom first off said that he is glad that that strike was able to come to a temporary close, as over $100 million of exports goes through those ports combined for beef and pork each week.
We see this as very good news. Getting people back to work, starting cargo moving again out of the Gulf and East Coast is essential to our business. So from that standpoint, we're very excited about these developments in the last few hours. I think the importance of this is that, we have a reputation globally as being a very reliable supplier to our customers all over the world. So in that regard, getting people back to work at these ports and getting cargo moving again is essential. And so in that regard, it's very good news and being able to continue to supply our customers, especially for some of our smaller exporters, our smaller members. It's a difficult situation for everyone involved, but especially for some of the smaller companies. So I think in this regard, getting business back on track this is really good news as we go forward.
Halstrom said he also appreciates the work that was done by each party involved to get the situation resolved quickly.
Our goal all along was to getting people back to work, and the fact that they have agreed to go back to the bargaining table and continue work in the meantime, we see that as a real positive. And also thank you to our government officials that have been involved in this whole process and who have been pushing both sides to get back to the table as well. So in that regard, this is a real positive as we move forward into the last quarter of 2024.
That again was Dan Halstrom, president and CEO of the U.S. Meat Export Federation. Let's go ahead and take a look at the closing markets.
It's time now for the Ag Matters PM Closing Market Summary, your source for market analysis and settlement prices from the day's trade in Chicago, courtesy of the folks at agmarket.net.
At the end of another trading day in the ag marketplace, we're here with Ross Baldwin of agmarket.net. First off, Ross, what do we see going on in the grain markets today?
Had a pretty aggressive day of lower trade across corn and beans. Corn closed the day 4 to 5 cents lower. Dees corn settled the day at 4.20 3/4, so it did hold just above 4.20. We did trade down to 4.19 1/4, but all in all, we closed below yesterday's low, and the technical picture, it looks rough here for corn after corn has had a really nice rally over the last few weeks. Soybeans, they found some aggressive selling as well. They were anywhere from 17 to 19 cents lower. November beans ended the day at 10.16 1/4. Beans have continued to be under pressure here the last few trading sessions, and really the sell-offs have been intensifying, getting a little bit more aggressive. And the last couple days we've closed well below the previous day's lows. So similar to corn, the technical picture coupled with harvest is pretty ugly right now here for beans. And the wheat market was pretty quiet actually. Wheat found it was a little stronger December Chicago wheat was up about 2 cents. Kansas City wheat was unchanged, up a penny. Those markets, the wheat market continues to find a little bit of strength on just some dryness concerns around the globe, especially over in the Black Sea area.
And then, of course, on Friday, we've got that WASDE report. What are we expecting to see from this, considering we have seen some pretty uneventful reports recently?
Correct. And I think that's kind of how the trade's leaning, is more towards an uneventful report. And like you said, the reports here lately haven't been anything too wild. But the two big numbers that the market's going to be watching is the corn and bean yield. And the average trade guesses are just a tenth of a bushel below for each one. The bean yield's around 53, and the corn yield is 183.1, I believe, is what the average guess is. But each of them are just a tenth of a bushel below. So I think the market, it'll really be watching that. Some of these early yields have been really good. The yields you're starting to hear of some of these later planted yields or later planted crops that the yields are maybe not as good as the early planted stuff, just given the lack of rainfall throughout August. But as a whole, the yields have been pretty dang good, and I think the market's going to be watching to see if there's potentially any increases from the USDA.
And then looking at the livestock side of things, how did cattle and hogs trade today?
They were firmer across both of those markets. Live cattle were 80 cents to $1 higher, with nearby October leading the way. October was $1 higher, and December was 85 cents higher. October is in delivery, but it's a good sign to see the market bull spreading, especially with October as the lead month into delivery, as it's really reflecting cash. Cash trade was firmer again this past week, which continues to spill over into the futures market. We saw the managed money crowd was aggressive buyers of live cattle and feeder cattle last week, and a big driver of that's been the strength across the cash market. And I think cattle feeders have been reluctant sellers here recently, and I think that's going to spill over into this week. And I think cattle feeders will be looking for all of steady money, if not a $1 to $2 higher on the cash side of things. Over in feeder cattle, they were anywhere from $1 to $1.50 higher. They started the day pretty mixed day of trade. We did trade below our recent uptrend, which has been really good support. Ran some stops below it and traded lower for a little bit before the managed money crowd came back in, aggressive buyers. They've been building back into a pretty large feeder long, and that hasn't changed. The live cattle and feeder cattle market, they are in some steep uptrending markets right now. It goes back to about September 6th when we reversed and closed higher, and that's kind of been the story of the cattle market, and it really coincides with the equity markets. Neither the S&P 500 or the live cattle or feeder cattle market have closed below a previous day's low since September 6th. And given how steep this uptrend's been across cattle, I think you got to be mindful of how overbought we are getting here, and the vulnerability that we do have for a correction. And just with the nature of the cattle market, it could be an aggressive correction if and when it starts. So maybe the first clue that you could look for is the equity markets, which they remain firm right now. And if that were to change, I think it could spill over into cattle.
All right, Ross, lots of great information today. For those of our listeners and viewers who would like to get in touch and learn more from agmarket.net, how can they do that?
You can reach me at our office here in Anthon. Our number is 712-373-3276, or you can visit agmarket.net.
All right, Ross, thanks again for the analysis as always, and we look forward to chatting again soon.
Thanks for having me.
That again was Ross Baldwin of agmarket.net. We'll take a look at how the numbers close through the market window at iowaagnet.com. December corn down 5 1/4 at 4.20 3/4. November soybeans down 17 3/4 at 10.16 1/4. December soybean meal down $1 at 3.23 even. Soybean oil down $1.48 at 43.09. Chicago wheat up 2 1/4 at 5.94 3/4. Kansas City hard red wheat up half a cent at 6.03 3/4. Minneapolis spring wheat up 3/4 cent at 6.45 even. December oats down 6 3/4 at 3.89 even. On the Merc, October live cattle up $1 at 188.47. October feeders up $1.47 at 250.32. December lean hogs up 35 cents at 77.17. Pork cutout up a dime at 91 even. And October class 3 milk up 14 cents at 22.65. And that's been a check of the markets here on Ag Matters PM. That also brings us to the end of today's episode. You can find all of our content on our website at iowaagnet.com. Also follow us on social media at Facebook, X, LinkedIn, and TikTok. Find our video content as well as previous episodes of AM PM on our YouTube channel. Make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell to see when those videos go live. Don't forget as well our free morning, midday, and closing market podcasts, as well as the Iowa Ag Matters podcast and Pods of Potential. You can find all of those on your favorite podcasting service on Apple, Amazon, Spotify, and Podbean. From the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network studios in Des Moines, I'm Riley Smith. On behalf of the IARN broadcasting crew, we thank you for watching. This has been Ag Matters PM.